Hello again! Here is your amigo Leandro with some more reporting from the field. This time, I bring you a double combo as we recently visited not one but two conferences. First, StarWest in Anaheim, California, and then PNSQC in Portland, Oregon. Everything started arriving at the LAX airport. Heading to the conference's location, we arrived at the one and only Disneyland Hotel at the very doors of the amusement park in Anaheim. The conference ran from the 3rd to the 7th of October, but the first 2 days are dedicated to lots of workshops and tutorials. Because of that, there wasn't much movement with presentations or people walking around. So we settled our interview corner and intercepted friends to come by and share their wisdom and experience for a few minutes. We started warming up engines by talking to Vince Huang, Master of Chaos. We described together what was coming over the following days. Then, Vince shared many insights on the deal with chaos engineering, such as error budgets, server-level agreements, tools for chaos, and much more. Then, we streamed the first walkthrough over the area to take advantage of our streaming gear. We showed how the place looks at the early stages of the conference to give the audience a feel of the hotel area. It was very Disney-y, with classic songs constantly playing all over the place. Then, we captured our amigo Andrew Knight from Applitools, better known as the Automation Panda, who had just finished giving a full-day workshop about BDD. We discussed the differences between BDD and TDD, services and microservices, and much more. Although, well, we had a hiccup and forgot to unmute the stream during the whole thing. I promise I will catch him, Pokemon pun intended, in a future event and try and unmute the broadcast of that interview. And speaking of being muted, we started in the same way our following interview with the amigo Jonathan Wright from Eggplant Quayside, who looked like he just came from the future, wearing a VR headset and all the gear on. Fortunately, we got messages right away and unmuted in time. So we restarted, and thanks to that, we learned so much about the metaverse, augmented reality, AI, virtual personas, and a bunch of futuristic ideas that blew our minds. This tale moves on with the storyteller on the interview seat, our amigo Noel Wurst from SmartBear, the chief storyteller there. He shared some insights about storytelling with us. It is a key element for dev roles, presenters, QA, and pretty much everyone, as stories are the best way to transmit knowledge. Having the right story told by the right person in the right way is way better than when sales just try to push information over an audience. Closing the workshop days, we got to talk to Vikas Mittal from Civia, who shared insights about Civia services and brought a mind-blowing perspective that I had not pondered before. He showed us why easy and codeless automation testing solutions are essential for organizations whose goals are not to become technical masters and who only need to ensure that the technology that they use has quality. That was a crazy way to close those quiet times, as the following morning, the conference days, full of talks, sponsors, booths, panels, and much more fun, started. We launched the conference days stream by walking through the registration area, the breakfast zone, the Genius testing bar for one-on-ones, the test lab. We gave a list of the talks and a walkthrough over the main ballroom, which was ready for the keynotes. After that inaugural stream, we returned to the interview corner with the one and only Joe Calantonio, founder of the Test Guild community. He shared details on how he started his community, how he started the Guild conferences online only before everyone else had to do it, and the most significant interest in testing together with his biggest struggles as head of the Guild. By the way, the Automation Guild Conference 2023 is starting soon and online only. Do not miss the early bird prizes. After Joe left, it was time to leave the interview spot for a bit, as it was time for me to talk. Following the motto of the magic land that we were at, I presented The Quest of a Performance Engineer, a tale of the adventures of this mythical creature. On it, I talked about the skills for this magical creature, the feats of the performance heroes from the past, and closed with the tasks that modern performance heroes should be doing. Once my talk was over, we returned to the interview corner and found the amigo Andreas Andy Grabner from Dynatrace. He is heading the Captain project to bring observability to all those pesky Kubernetes platforms. We discussed the topic of observability, software being observable by default and having observability standards everywhere is highly important, something that he is constantly working to achieve. Next in line was Eddie Urenda from Hexaware. Long ago, he was my performance godfather as he was the first manager that brought me into starting my journey in performance testing. Being the Americas division lead, he has an excellent overview of how businesses are evolving around QA in these modern times. We discussed the latest trends, needs, and activities that organizations request from service providers. He emphasized that the biggest one was the migration to the cloud. As he mentioned, it is an organization's most significant headache in assuring quality nowadays. After interviewing Eddie, we took a stroll with the camera streaming action from the exposition area. With that, we started the first piece of the tour through the sponsor booths. But there were so many booths that we had to cut the tour halfway and turn it into a two-part. After that, we went for the last interview stop for the day with Mostafa Peshwarwala, CEO of Royal Cyber. He shared the recommended best QA practices, as well the differences in testing microservices, how they differ from regular services, the skills needed in these modern times, and some details about his talk. After that, we went to the closing keynotes, which had even an extraordinary situation. A first time ever for me in a conference. Chris Loader from Upland Software did his keynote proposing to his girlfriend. The only time that I have seen that a keynote presentation makes people cry. Tears of joy, of course, as gladly she said yes. We closed the day with another walking tour with a little bit of wine, showing the fun that everyone was having at closing the event, where there were gifts from the sponsors, dinner, and lots of fun wrapping down all the day. During the next day, I was noticing that up to that moment, everyone in the interview corner was male, only hombres. So I decided to fix it and make it a woman who tests interview day as much as possible. The first brave lady on the spot was Cheryl Raya from NIPR, who also had given a talk earlier. Her talk focused on the metamorphosis of manual testers into automators. She also shared on the interview her path as a woman developer getting to QA and teaching herself to care about quality. Not to mention that she had 1,000 automated tests that she was helping on to manage, and she gave also multiple recommendations for everyone to follow their passion. Next, we had Noah Segol, VP of Marketing at Practitest. She shared several excellent perspectives and statistics for women interested in getting into tech from other areas. She also told us about her perspective as a psychologist on being more inclusive and aware of those differences and mental barriers to break. I can tell she broke many barriers I had in my mind that I wasn't even aware that I had. Taking a break from the interview corner, we resumed our walkthrough of the exposition center. We did part 2 and went over the remaining booths and learned a lot about the remaining sponsors. But then, returning to the interview corner, we talked to Sarah Watkins from Q2. That was her second conference and the second time that she had presented, given a talk, held panels, and even workshops. She's just starting, but rocking it. She shared that journey with us, the challenges and successes that she has been having. I foresee a great future for her. And again, we had to leave the interview corner since it was time for a performance testing panel. There, we got extraordinary performers to share different perspectives on different performance topics. It was a blast of discussions and lots of generating value. But the day was not over yet, and we got one last wonderful woman in testing at the interview corner, our amiga, veteran at conferences, Melissa Benua from M-Particle. She had been super busy helping with the test lab, and she described all those fun activities that they were doing there. Then we discussed about her journey, the challenges and recommendations as a woman in IT and QA. She even mentioned that Star Trek was in part responsible for her journey. Live long and prosper. Sadly, by then, we ran out of women who test and still had a small slot, so we got Amit Deshpande from Kairos sharing details about his talk, using their tool to improve performance and how to manage the multiple moving parts in a performance test. An overload of wisdom and information, but all things have to end, so we booted the closing stream for the conference. We were super tired after all the fun, but we closed up gloriously with some giveaways, a tour through the empty hallways after all the fun was done, and a few closing words from Alison Wade, who is responsible for bringing the event together. A great way to close and say goodbye to Anaheim and LA. See you again soon, TechWell amigos and amigas. But the journey was not over, since we went from there straight into Portland, Oregon for PNSQC, the Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference, and they were celebrating their 40th edition, 40 years, oh wow! There, we opened the adventures, jumping right into a fantastic conversation between two titans of QA. On one hand, Vernon Richards from Ada Health, who presented an incredible opening keynote for the conference about career choices in QA. It was a majestic presentation. And on the other hand, we had Michael Curley-Larson from Exelon and Learning Techs, another titan in the QA world. Together, we talked about QA, education, becoming a tester, careers, and lots of crazy random points around QA. Then, I had a chance to talk to a compatriot from Mexico who I knew from long ago, Juan de Dios Delgado from Mobica. He's an awesome tester who shared details about his talk about testing voice recognition at the conference. We also discussed fun stories on how to transcend and cross borders emigrating to foreign countries. And that was it for interviews that day, as I had to leave and prepare for the closing keynote. That was because I was the one giving the keynote. I ended that day by giving a keynote about performance, modern performance, with my typical examples full of tacos, Chihuahua dogs, guacamole, and even Aztec sacrifices. The next day, we started by interviewing Julia Pottinger from Quality Works, who opened the day with an incredible keynote about learning in QA areas. In our interview, she discussed the challenges and opportunities enabling people to learn and grow their skills in this competitive world. She also talked about her challenges as a woman in IT and gave motivating learnings from her journey to get to where she is today. Then, we intercepted Jason Arbon from Test AI. Yeah, that Jason Arbon, author of the book How Google Tests Software. He shared his crazy journey through those largest IT companies and the reasons for writing the above-mentioned book. Also, the latest trends in QA, such as AI. How was his incursion into it? Modern, borderline futuristic technologies, and even we talked about digital clones. It was lots of crazy stuff. And speaking of crazy stuff, next we got to talk to Tariq King from EPAM, also VP of the PNSQC board. This man is everywhere. He shared several details about his journey getting into AI, such as learning the trade from free sources like YouTube. He added several AI breakthroughs and explained technical terms like tensors, the leverage of traces in AI and performance testing, and where the industry is heading up. Almost getting to an end, we interviewed an amigo that followed us from StarWest, Peter Fieldhassie from EPAM. He shared details about his full of beer lining keynote at StarWest, also his contributions to projects that he's driving, some QA knowledge, and lessons in understanding clients and adding value while providing QA services. And we closed that journey with Chris Navridis, CEO of DevTools, and another heavyweight in the world of AI. He talked about his journey into AI, how his previous endeavors helped to let AI recognize web forms, some more breakthroughs in solving problems with AI, and we even talked about automatically generating video content. Definitely an AI overload to close my streaming spree. And ramping down, that was not all, even as that was the last interview. Because on the next day, we closed this journey with an intense 4-hour workshop showing how to integrate K6, Prometheus, Grafana, GitHub, Jenkins, and much more into an entire continuous performance testing platform. Those 2 weeks were a giant journey full of knowledge, interactions, and incredible people. I look forward to the next opportunity to have this blast again. But until then, I think I should be wrapping up now. If you are interested in watching any of the full interviews that I mentioned, you can find links in the description below. Gracias for reaching up to the end of this report. That's it for me for now. Leandro out.